What up, what up, what up? It's your boy LQ, Mr. Real Deal Fantasy. You see the face, you know the case. This is FTN Fantasy. What's the word? And I am joined today by a very special guest. You might have heard her voice on ESPN radio, but we got boots on the ground in Duval with Mia O'Brien. What's going on, my Jersey sister?
Hey man, I'm just glad you said Duval the right way. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I do enjoy when my colleagues at ESPN Radio, anytime that I'm on the air, they have to drop the Liam Cohen Duval. But listen, we give Liam a pass down here. I know when I first moved here 7 years ago, you don't realize if you're trying to say Duval mid-sentence, even listen to how I just said it there. You got to say it from the belly, from the diaphragm. You can't just try to slip it in there, especially if you're going to let the Duval go. You're going to run out of oxygen. So we give him the pass. It's all good, but happy to be here.
Absolutely. We want to get into it, and I want to jump right into what's the biggest question mark right now about this Jacksonville Jaguars offense. I mean, we are 20 days away from kickoff. How has this offense looked in practice and like in preseason to you from your lens? Like, are these guys ready to go?
Yes, I think that is the $1 million question because there have been moments where you look at this offense and you say, wow, this is going to be something unlike anything we have seen in Jacksonville, at least in the last decade. I go back to this. The Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay influence on offenses across the National Football League dates back to their time with the Washington Redskins back in the early 2010s. The Jacksonville Jaguars have never in the 20 or I guess 15 years since that time have never once plucked from that Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan tree. Liam Cohen and this staff are the first time that we are actually seeing influences from that tree that has certainly populated the rest of the league and has had great success. This is the first time we are seeing that offense be run in Jacksonville. It is also the first time Trevor Lawrence is operating in that sort of scheme. It is the first time this offensive line that was predominantly more zone blocking a year ago for the last 3 years, as a matter of fact, that they are being placed into this scheme. We saw with Sean McVay, and Sean McVay has been very complimentary of Liam Cohen from his time in Tampa, that this is a philosophy that has gotten away from zone blocking, actually went to more of a gap in Tampa. We've seen the power running from Sean McVay and Kyron Williams over each of the last 2 years. And so that's why it's going to take a little bit of time. And that's why I am giving this Jaguars offense grace, because so many players, not just Trevor Lawrence, are learning a new language. There's going to be hiccups. There's also going to be frustration. I know it was highly documented yesterday by myself and some others at the Jaguars intra-squad scrimmage of the drops, the penalties. I mean, you tell me, LQ, man, like training camp's supposed to be hard. It's not supposed to be a country club. And maybe it was too much of a country club in years past, and we all assumed everything's great. Let's, fast forward to week one. I think it's a good thing that mentally and physically this Jacksonville Jaguars team is being challenged by a first-year head coach and a new regime.
Now, the fantasy streets were definitely tapped into your tweets yesterday talking about that practice, but the fantasy streets know how I feel about Trevor Lawrence. This is the one time that I'm probably going to say his name correctly. I got to let you in. I've been calling him Trevor Mid-Lawrence, but I don't want to be mean today because I do want to ask you from your lens, does this feel like it's a big season on the rise for Trevor Lawrence? Like, how is he adapting to this Liam Cohen offense?
So the analogy that I will give you, because in my opinion, it's the best that I've heard, is from Derek Klassen of the Athletic Football Show. His belief is that this is going to be very similar to Matt Ryan and Kyle Shanahan being paired in 2015, 2016 with the Atlanta Falcons. Now, everyone looks to that Super Bowl run. Everyone looks to Matt Ryan being an MVP candidate. But instead, what I want you to look to instead is the 7-8-1 campaign the season prior. That was a season in which those two sides, because they came from very different backgrounds, and Matt Ryan had had success prior to Kyle Shanahan's arrival in the ATL, and now he has to learn a new language. And there was some friction there. It's been well documented in my friend Mike Silver's The Why Is Everything. Both sides very readily admit now there was some friction because it took time to learn. But you fast forward 18 months into the process, And all of a sudden, they're one of the best teams and one of the best offenses in the National Football League. That, for me, is the comp. Everyone wants to look at Jared Goff and Ben Johnson. Everyone wants to look at Baker Mayfield with Dave Canales and Liam Cohen. That is the one that I point to, and that is why I have patience. I know Shad Khan and Tony Khan and ownership have patience with Trevor. They obviously gave him a 5-year contract that does not even kick in until next season. He is playing on the 5th-year option this year. And so, look, unless this results in a number 1 overall pick and it just goes Nathaniel Hackett catastrophically bad. Trevor Lawrence is
shade.
And I love Nate Hackett, man. I mean, you should go watch some of the mic'd ups from when he was in Jacksonville. It's hilarious. Shout out to Nate, by the way. I'm an Ethica College product. I've always got to give Central New York, upstate New York love. But that's why I just look at this and I say, he's 25 years old. We didn't see Jared Goff at the level that he is now. We didn't see Baker Mayfield at the level that he is now until they were in their late 20s. Oh, by the way, Trevor Lawrence came into the league at 21 years old, and maybe, oh boy, here she goes, maybe the offense that was being run at Clemson was a little bit more Mickey Mouse than we believed circa 2019. And so in turn, maybe Trevor Lawrence wasn't as plug and play ready to play in the National Football League because he not only had a monster all-star cast around him, but he also was not playing in a pro-style offense.
Let's talk about his weapons. Now, in the fantasy streets, they're looking and flirting with Brian Thomas Jr. going in the first round of drafts. Do they have the right temp on him? How has he looked connecting with Trevor Lawrence through camp?
Yes, that's the right temp. It's weird, dude. I mean, I was the one who peppered Liam, and I felt really bad. I talked to multiple people in the building afterwards. I teach in the leadership department at the University of North Florida as well, and I talked to my boss, Dr. Olson, about it because I was so fascinated with Liam's response. We have now seen Brian Thomas Jr. throw his helmet twice during training camp. A year ago, this was a player who, myself included, we had concerns about because, yes, there was drops. It felt like he was playing at half speed. You couldn't figure out if he was competitive, if he loved football. And then the preseason began. And then you saw that 40-yard completion from C.J. Beathard against the Kansas City Chiefs down the sideline. He gets up, he celebrates. The entire sideline runs onto the field. I don't think they drew a penalty, but they probably should have because everyone went, oh, man, this is who he is. And so that's why I asked Liam earlier this week when we saw the helmet get thrown again, how do you, from a leadership perspective, how do you curate that energy? Because it's very clear that he's not only he's harder on himself this year, but it also is clear that he's letting his emotions out on the field. And obviously, the hope is that those emotions, as much as you don't want him to be so down on himself, those emotions are geared towards his own performance and not the performance of his teammates. And Liam stressed that there is no beef between Trevor and Brian. There's no beef between
it's good to hear.
Brian. Yes, there's no beef between Brian and the rest of the team. I will tell you this. I have now had, and this is, I've heard it from multiple people, and it surprises many when they watch practice. Unsolicited, multiple members, multiple departments at the Jacksonville Jaguars have came to me and said, my favorite guy on the team to deal with. He's the best locker room guy. He's the best teammate. He is such a great personality. Is Brian Thomas Jr. And if you were to watch Jacksonville Jaguars practice, I don't know if you would feel that way. And I don't want to say he's just a practice player. He's not a practice player and he's a gamer. Yeah. But Liam Cohen said it, not me. When we know when the lights come on, he shows up and we know what he did last year. And like that's where I have trepidation because I'm like, are we really just going to bank on, well, we know what he is, so we're not worried about what he is in practice? Because I think that that's a little naive. But at the same time, like he's done nothing otherwise to show that he's not going to show up week 1 against the Carolina Panthers. And so, yes, if he is to look at all like he did a year ago, I would buy high on Brian Thomas Jr. I'm sure there are those who, of course, would say, you know, Trevor Lawrence is the one throwing to him, not Mac Jones of 500 plus of the 1,000 plus yards he had a year ago.
Are you following my tweets? Yeah, I've said it a couple times on the timeline.
It's fine. But no, I mean, the argument to be made is 500 plus yards of the 1,000 plus yards that BTJ had last year came from Mac Jones. And there are those who believe on the internet streets that Trevor Lawrence doesn't throw a catchable ball for whatever the reason. Okay. Point being, I don't believe it was just, Mac Jones throws a more catchable ball. I believe it was last year's staff did not realize what they had in Brian Thomas Jr. Christian Kirk was healthy. Gabe Davis was healthy the first half of the year. Evan Ingram was largely in and out of the lineup, but healthy. And so therefore, they were never going to run the offense through him. Liam Cohen, day one, stood at the podium at the Miller Electric Center and said that this offense is running through Brian Thomas Jr. And so I expect it to do so.
That is awesome. Let's talk about another weapon, Travis Hunter. He is the hot commodity right now in fantasy, but some folks are a little standoffish. They don't know if he's going to play a lot more on defense, if he's going to be on offense. Like, how are you seeing this pan out? Like, what are your expectations from your lens where he'll do the most damage on offense, or is it defense?
I think that we need to start viewing everything Travis Hunter related as situational. Does he believe he could play every snap on offense and every snap on defense week one against the Carolina Panthers? Yes, he does. Do I believe they're going to play him every snap? No, I do not. We've already heard verbatim, I'm not breaking any news here, Liam Cohen specifically cited that in 12 personnel, they had not incorporated Travis Hunter into that package yet. And I think that's intentional. They don't want to give him more than they don't want to give him more than he can chew. They certainly don't want to rush the process. And so they are strategically saying, you are in this package on offense, you are in this package on defense. Now, where this gets interesting, Tyson Campbell day-to-day this week with an undisclosed injury. And so because of that, Travis Hunter has been running primarily opposite Jarian Jones as the first team outside cornerback. And while, yes, he did change into a wide receiver jersey midway through yesterday's intra-squad scrimmage and lined up at wide receiver with the first team offense, it has felt the last few days without Campbell that he has played more defense, just in terms of pure snap count. He has played on the defensive side of the ball more. You could make the argument he played on the offensive side of the ball more early in training camp, and so they're just balancing the two out. Point being, I believe that when it comes to Travis Hunter and his usage, it will be based off of matchups. When the Jaguars face the Cincinnati Bengals week 2, I would gather to guess they will want him on defense primarily because of the wide receiver weapons that the Cincinnati Bengals possess. Now, in the same vein, you can argue, well, the secondary for Cincinnati was a question mark last year. Wouldn't you want him to play wide receiver more and exploit that secondary? And so that's where I believe that this is going to be matchup based. There will be some weeks where he's going to be playing a lot more on offense, and there's going to be other games where his snap count is much higher on defense. And I know that is difficult for fantasy owners, but that's why Madden came up with a new criteria, and it's just for him.
Listen, this is why we have you on today, Mia, because the fantasy streets need to hear that. It's going to be situational, matchup based. That is not great for fantasy unless you're doing best ball leagues. But Mia, you have to help us out with this backfield. Tank Bigsby, Travis Etienne, Bashal Tootin. What are we doing? Like, who is standing out to you? Like, where is the gap? And like, who is taking the reins as the RB1 in your lens, in your opinion? And maybe who's locking up that RB2 role?
It has surprised a lot of folks that Travis Etienne has been the lead tailback every practice, the first preseason game, yesterday's intra-squad scrimmage, and I would expect that to continue. People in the building, I don't know if they took the rumors of him potentially being on the trade block around April's NFL draft to heart, or it's just based off, and I'm in this camp, TJ is a great guy. And when we say TJ, it's Travis Etienne Jr. And so the previous staff called him TJ. And now we call him TJ because there's two Travises, and it's a lot easier to say that. TJ is Travis Etienne Jr. is one of the better dudes in that locker room. He is a veteran voice in that running back room. Because Tank Bigsby, let's be real here, this is year 3, but he really didn't play all that much year 1, was in the doghouse with then offensive coordinator Press Taylor early and often after fumbling 2 of his first 6 touches of his career. And so last year really was year 1 for Tank. I don't want to say that because he was the star of training camp his rookie season, but ultimately I think that there is still a learning curve there. That's not to say I would still buy Tank Bigsby stock because I could see a world in which Tank Bigsby is more of your red zone, punch it in threat in terms of touchdowns. But Travis Etienne is actually your workhorse because of his ability in both the receiving and the run game. And that's why I had someone ask me on the sideline, someone with the Jaguars asked me earlier this week, what's your stat total for Travis? And I was like, probably like 500 rushing, 500 receiving, just because I believe it's going to be running back by committee. And this person goes, I think he's hitting 1,000 yards running, just so you know. And I was like, oh, cool. And they were like, yeah, we're going to he's the lead guy until proven otherwise. And, that's very encouraging. That's very encouraging because he is someone who has put in the work. Obviously, he's in a contract year. So I would expect at this juncture, Travis Etienne is running back one. Tank Bigsby, I believe, is, if you're looking for, I guess if you go back to the Detroit Lions that year where it was the Lions, right? Where they had, what's his face? Jamal Williams, was it? Or who was it that
Yes,
had
Jamal Williams. Yeah.
Right. He had 13 touchdowns, but obviously was outsnapped by David Montgomery or whoever the lead tailback was. So yeah, I'm expecting something like that potentially. So I would still buy Tank Bigsby stock. The wild card in all of this is Bashal Tutin, who so many are so high on because of the agility, the left to right, sideline to sideline, lateral ability. I totally understand that. He was banged up a little bit at the start of training camp, and so we've really seen his snap count rise as the weeks have progressed. He obviously got a ton of run in preseason game number 1 against the Steelers, and so I do expect him to be a factor. Will he be RB1 week 1? No. I think he's somebody who you get later on in fantasy drafts and you kind of stash him for that midway point of the season because let's be honest, Bucky Irving did not emerge as the lead tailback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers until week 14 against the Los Angeles Chargers a year ago. And so that's why I would not be expecting Bashal Tutin to light the world on fire week 1. That's just me. The wild card, in my opinion, is not Tutin. The wild card is also, and again, I don't know how much run he's going to get, but I think he's going to see more snaps than people anticipate, is LaQuint Allen, the 7th round pick out of Syracuse.
Wow.
He is regarded as one of the best pass protector, best running backs in pass protection that the Jaguars have. And one of the best running backs in pass pro in this past April's NFL draft. He was also one of 2 running backs in college football at the FBS level last year to have 1,000 rushing yards and over 500 receiving yards, the other tailback being Cam Scatterbo. And so he's someone, he's already started 2 fights in practice. He's got an edge, and this Jaguars team needs an edge. Trevor Lawrence was very complimentary of his pass pro yesterday too. I believe he's on the team. That's why you may not see a ton of them in the preseason, in my opinion. But I don't think he's going to be, by any stretch of the imagination, a lead tailback, but he is absolutely going to be a 3rd down option for the Jaguars.
Wow. And my next and final question was going to ask you, is there a potential player that's going under the radar unless you have somebody else that the fantasy streets should be very tapped in to you, Mia, because you are dropping gems over here, man. I do think that, folks, they need to go to your Twitter and just follow the timeline because you've been dropping these names everywhere. But Mia, is there somebody else that we should be worried about?
Yeah, Brenton Strange is probably the biggest name, and I know the fantasy streets have kind of keyed in on him a little bit in Evan Ingram's departure to Denver. And look, I don't know that this is going to be a tight end friendly offense because when Brenton Strange was drafted in the 2nd round in 2023, the sentiment that I got from the then coaching staff was that Doug Peterson wanted to run more 12 and 13 personnel. He wanted to incorporate more tight end to 2 tight end sets. And then we never saw it. And so that's why I don't want to give this idea of, they're going to be run heavy. There's going to be a lot of production from the tight ends because behind Brenton Strange, you have Johnny Munt, who Kevin O'Connell or Sean McVay, one of them called him the best tight end 3 in the league. And then you've got Hunter Long, who I was very high on coming out of Boston College, believed he had that ability as an inline blocker, but also someone who could split out wide, has never really come to fruition because of injuries. I hope it works out for him, although he had 2 passes go between his mitts yesterday, so maybe not recency bias, the best ringing endorsement right now. But Brenton Strange is tight end 1 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I believe, given that the offensive line is still gelling, there will be a lot of short to intermediate routes that will be more favorable matchup wise for Trevor Lawrence as this offense comes to fruition. And so the safety valve of the tight end and Brenton Strange, there could be value there. I don't think that he's going to be a 10 touchdown guy, but I'd love to be proven wrong. But I think you're going to get significant production in the receiving game from him if you're going to take a flyer on one of the Jaguars tight ends. And look, he's a great blocker too. So he's never going to come off the field. And that is a big development because that was the argument for why Evan Ingram was released he did not fit the identity of what this team and this new coaching staff wants to build, which is wide receivers who can block, tight ends who can block and catch.
I love that. Now, you've been in Jacksonville for 7 years now. If I was to visit Jacksonville. Have you found your spot? Because some folks may not know you're from New Jersey. This is my home. I love my home state. I've been there for 30 years. I love the pizza bagels and the chopped cheese, the cheesesteaks, and everything else under the sun. But have you found a spot that is close to your heart in Jacksonville, food wise?
Oh yeah, come on now, dog. I mean, tell me what type of food you want. I'll tell you this: my parents were visiting this week. They just flew back to New Jersey last night, and my dad joked. He's like, "Do you only take us to New Jersey establishments?" Because Cafe Genovese, which is in my hood, on
Okay.
210. Shout out to the 210 Mafia, County Road 210. Cafe Genovese is run by some folks who are from the New Jersey, New York City area. It's a brunch spot. They got pork roll. Do I need to continue?
I was about to say, is it Taylor ham or pork roll? But Mia has confirmed she is on her way to the cookout this summer.
Yes, they've got pork rolls, so I'm just going to leave it at that. They don't even put it on the menu. It's just the real ones know. Bagels are us, surprisingly, pretty good bagels. They get the water shipped down from New Jersey. I don't know how real that is, but they are as close to a New Jersey bagel as you're going to get. Serafina is my go-to in the pizza department. They're also from the New York City area. Yeah, I've got we got Al Dente and Poppy. Shout out to those Italian spots. We've got some really good. I mean, if you're into seafood, if you're into, burgers, if you're into taco spots, Taco Lou is iconic. So I got to give them a shout out. I think like US News and World Report just listed it as like, if you're going to go visit Jacksonville, you have to go to Taco Lou, and that's accurate. Angie Subs, another legendary. We got a lot of good food, but also LQ, it's important. It's important to note that as much as I'm from New Jersey, I moved here from Iowa. And so I was in Iowa for 3 years out of college. And I would fly back to New Jersey and I'd be like, Mom, you need to take me to sushi. You need to take me to get a bagel. You need to take me to good Mexican food. Like I need you to just I need to go to all of them.
That's how I'm feeling here in LA. I need to get back to New Jersey just to get some good home food. Like I miss the pizza. Like me, I think we had the best pizza in the world. Like I haven't had all the pizza in the world, but that's just how good New Jersey pizza is. Me, like I could throw a rock and hit a mom and pop shot, and I know that the dough, the pizza is going to be great. The pepperoni is going to be cup and char. We're going to be feeling good at the end of the day. But Mia, this has been a great time with you, and hopefully this isn't your last time on the show. What's the word? FTN Fantasy. Mia, can you let everybody know where they can stay tapped in with your content?
Absolutely. At MiaOBrienTV. Of course, I'm on air on ESPN Radio. I'll be on tomorrow, Saturday, August 16th from 7 to 10 p.m. Schedule kind of varies there, but if you follow me on Twitter, I'll update you there. Instagram at MoBrien_16. I teach leadership, which is a lot of fun for my day job outside of covering the Jaguars and covering the league. The Women's Basketball Podcast. If you're into women's basketball, WNBA, or college hoops, check myself and Mitch Northam out on the OG Triangle Media Podcast Network. And we may have a pretty significant announcement coming on the local Jaguars coverage front, coming here hopefully in the next week or so. So you're going to want to keep it locked in.
Absolutely, Mia. Thank you so much for joining the show. And again, you guys can make sure you guys like and subscribe. And if the listeners are on the audio, please download and make sure you hit that auto download so you can hear what's the word with your favorite team while we get boots on the ground from all the great people in the space and industry that are covering your favorite 32 teams. This has been great. Peace.